Hi there, GIS students. This is Cale Moffett again. This morning in class we talked a little bit about sources and identifying sources that will be helpful for us. And I talked about the assignment, and I got the deer eyes, deer in the headlight eyes from people, and figured out why. One of your classmates and I were looking at Moodle, and it looks like Carrie had kind of expected me to introduce the assignment to you. I was under the impression she'd already introduced it to you. So let me go ahead and address her expectation, and I'll talk about the assignment a little bit, introduce it to you, and then maybe talk about some ideas that we talked about in class. And so hopefully they'll make a little bit more sense now. Alrighty, so let's go to the assignment. Alrighty, so here's the assignment. And in her email, Carrie said that even though this says SOCH 333 at the top, she said she would give you the same assignment. So she said we can use the same prompt for both. Basically what this is an article review, and she says there's going to be 2 of them during the semester. And basically what an article review is really just reading the article and just giving a good, rich discussion of the article or description of the article. Highlight a couple things here. It says 1 to 2 pages in length, and double space, type double space. She's making a stipulation: must be Times New Roman font 12, and that's a pretty standard requirement there. She wants to use APA style. So headings, page numbers, etc. If you have any questions about these elements, please feel free to get in touch with me. My contact information is on the GIS study guide. A couple other requirements, right? Peer-reviewed. We talked about that in class. Getting to peer-reviewed studies. Associated with that is empirical research studies. And again, just to kind of quickly review, empirical research studies refers to some degree of experimentation. Sometimes that's a study with actual people. Sometimes it can be a study of texts and how gender and identity is constructed through texts. But it needs to be peer-reviewed and an empirical study. So a literature review would not qualify here. That you want to look for specifically, and we mentioned this in class, right? Methods and results sections, and those are going to be 2 big signs that this is a peer-reviewed piece. And less than 3 years old, so I guess we're probably looking at probably 2016 through 2017. If an article was published a little bit later in 2014, that would work, and I can show you where you can find when it was published. Now this next section, she has some really good suggestions here. She's given us specific questions she wants the review to address, but she's also given a suggestion. I think this is a great suggestion of using forms of these questions as section headings. All right, so the first one: what's the background of the research, and what research questions are the authors trying to answer? And we talked a little bit about that in the class. I'll give you a little bit more here in a minute. But like this section could be titled Background and Research Questions. That's right, so there's your section. Next question: what participants and methods did they use? A heading section for here would simply be Participants and Methods. What results did the study indicate? So this could be very simply just results, not study. And then lastly, what were some of the limitations of the study? What about future directions of research? And oftentimes in empirical papers, the authors will note these. If you, though, as a student, see something that the author didn't see, it would be very appropriate to bring that up. It needs to be turned in through Moodle, and if I remember correctly from the students' Moodle page, it was February 16th, but you might want to email Carrie just to verify that. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and let's look at an article, and we can talk a little bit about some of these things that she's asking for. Okay, here we are at the library's homepage. Real quick review, research guides. Right, here's the Saint Search tab right here. Right next to it is the research guides tab. Again, I recommend going to all tabs and just scrolling down to gender and identity studies, excuse me. There's the research guide. And again, with gender and identity studies being so interdisciplinary, you'll want to figure out what area you want to start in. One of the things you can do, and I would, if you're not sure what area of gender and identity you want to look into, one of the things you can do is come to ProQuest Central. This is a good general database, and a lot of our ProQuest databases, the products, are linked to this one. So this could be a good place to start. So you can put in something I'm particularly interested in would be portrayals of women in television and film. All right, so as I'm typing this, it kind of pops into my mind. Well, let's look at female athletes in film and television. Execute the search. All right, so the first and easiest thing to do, a couple of easy things to do. Let's go ahead and filter for time here. I generally just find it easier to do this. Enter the the date ranges. Alrighty, so this is filtered for the 3-year window. Next thing we're going to want to do, empirical papers that she wants, so we're talking strictly scholarly journals there. Alrighty, so here are the results. We've filtered for time and for scholarly journals. We can come down and look at these. Whoops, that skipped down pretty quickly there. Let's go ahead and look at this one. Female athletes and journalists in television, sports, news programs. This is originally published in Spanish, but this is an English language translation for it. Let's look at the full text. Let's make sure it has those elements or those kind of signifiers of an empirical study. So we've got the abstract. Here's the introduction section, state of the art and hypotheses. So this is going to be our literature review section. Alright, it's got a methods collection telling us about data collection instruments. Sample, this is going to be your population. Population isn't always people. In this case, it looks like it's television programs. Procedure, and then here's a results section, and it looks like it has good, solid numerical data. Okay, so at this point, we've determined, okay, this looks like has the signs of an empirical peer-reviewed study. Let's go ahead and grab the PDF. Alrighty, so here's the PDF. Here's your abstract and keywords. And okay, one of the things that she wants us to, wants you guys, to be able to identify as a research question. That's not always going to be stated openly, right? So sometimes it's not, we have to infer it. This one, though, it's kind of nice. They say it right off the bat. They don't give it as a research question, but they give it as a statement, as a thesis. The objective of this research study is to compare the representation and information treatment of athletes depending on their sex, as well as the appearance of male and female journalists in the television, sports, news programs broadcast by the main Spanish TV networks. Right? We can infer that the question from this, but this just gives us a thesis. That's not always the case. Sometimes we have to do a little bit more work and infer it. Let me show you an example. Alrighty, this is an article, more than 1 million new American Indians in 2000. Who are they? Right, this includes a question, so who are they in the title? But we need to look at the article, right, to find out that really the question that's driving this is, why are there so many more people declaring American Indian as a race in the 2000 census than that were in the 1990 census? But that's why is this the increase that's there? Right. So they do give us some questions, some research questions that they're looking at, right? Which subgroups had the greatest numerical growth? Second, which subgroups had the greatest proportional increase? And third, are the 2000 single race American Indians and Alaska Natives and the 19 the same set of people? Again, these questions derive from the basic question of, why are there so many more now than there were then? Sometimes that takes a little time and experience to tease out, but that's something that you'll need to do. All right, so that's the assignment for the journal article review. If you have any further questions, it'll probably be best to contact Carrie. Although if there's anything I can do to help you with, please let me know. Ciao.